I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank, seasonal allergies.
I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon, not sleeping. This is our fun subtitles.
This is the time of the podcast era where we're just going through it.
Look, we're recording
you thought 2022 going through it? No, we're going through it.
Look, it's the day after my 39th birthday, and so I'm old now. It's over. I'm over the hill. I'm headed into my 40s.
Doing it.
I'm saying all this while my spouse, who is already almost in their mid-40s, isn't here and out of earshot because I know better. And they don't listen to the podcast. Yeah, so.
You saying things on this podcast is going to be the death of humanity.
It's true.
It's not a spoiler for something important.
No. Oh, yeah, I spoiled
my.
Steven Universe for my spouse while talking about it on this podcast, and they were in earshot. Mm-hmm. Whoops. Anyway, I should introduce our guest.
Yes.
He's an incredible writer. He's an incredible podcaster. He is the one and only Eric Van Allen. Welcome.
Hi, hello. I don't have a clever subtitle. I'm just also very tired.
Fair.
It is October, and I wish for the sweet release of games to stop coming out.
Remember in the summer when we were talking about how there was nothing to play? It's like
yeah, those were the good days. I say that wistfully. I say that there's nothing to play right now. It's beautiful.
Oh man. We're going to talk with Eric more about his awesome work at Destructoid, his two incredible podcasts. But before we get to all that, as always, we will talk about the most recent things we have watched. And y'all, I decided to make the terrible mistake of watching a comedy drama.
Okay.
I watched a movie that I had wanted to see a while ago and then forgot about. It was starring Ben Schwartz and Billy Crystal. It's called Standing Up, Falling Down. And it's about a comedian played by Ben Schwartz who goes home after not really making it in L.A. and like trying to pick himself up by his bootstraps. And he meets Billy Crystal's character, who is a dermatologist who's drunk in a bar, and like they have a weird interaction about a skin issue. And then he goes to see him, and they become fast friends. And it's kind of just this examination of these two people at different points in their life, and like. It's actually a very good movie. It's the classic kind of a movie with heart and hope, indie darling. I don't even know if it was directed by Matt Ratner. I don't even know if it was like actually an indie film or if it had a major release, but I watched it on Hulu and I'd wanted to see it for a while because I'm obligated as a Jew to like Billy Crystal. It's in the laws.
It's if you are a comedian or Jewish, you have to like Billy Crystal. You have no choice.
It's just required.
It's the legacy.
And so I'd wanted to see it for that. And then, of course, I've been a big Ben Schwartz fan for ages. I love DuckTales. I loved, what was the show he was on with Don Cheadle? Liars, something like that. It was a Showtime show that I'm blanking on. And, of course, he's the incredible Sonic the Hedgehog in the new movies, which I actually unironically enjoy.
Incomparable as
Sonic. I'm sure that's exactly what he wants for his whole career. Not his improv, not his TV work, not his movie work, but Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Now you have me picturing an alt universe where Billy Crystal voiced Tails Miles Prower and what we could have had in another timeline. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just very excited that Miracle Max and Sonic hang out.
Yeah, right? You gotta love it. Or Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
But yeah, no, the movie was really good. It, one of those makes you laugh and halfway through and then the ending makes you cry. It's one of those. And I don't want to spoil the whole plot because I think it's actually worth seeing. But like, it was one of those movies that I'd wanted to watch for a while and I'd forgot about and glad that I found again. It was also one of those movies that with 3 hours to spare was only an hour and a half long, and I knew I could get through right before the podcast because it's been one of those weeks. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it, though. I think if you're a fan of So, Rachel, I think you'd like it having done your hand at stand-up and having done your hand at hosting and burlesque. I think there's a lot about this kind of going home and, like, reckoning with fame, even though he wasn't that famous, like reckoning with trying to pursue something and then having to face your own, like, oh, no, I'm in my 30s. What am I doing kind of moments. It's like that part of it resonated with me a lot. Mm-hmm. And
I can feel that going back to ye old Evansville, Indiana, and being like, yeah, I have 2 records and a burlesque like history. It's I can't wait to go back this next time and be like, I can suplex people.
I'm a wrestler now.
I'm excited to be a wrestler now. Yeah, I know. That sounds really great. Also, I deeply adore both Ben Schwartz and Billy Crystal. I was just John yesterday about how much like Ben Schwartz deserves the moon.
Yeah.
It was definitely within the context of I don't want Chris Pratt to voice anything ever.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Ever again. And I was just like, why couldn't it have just been like, Ben Schwartz or something?
That's
or
Mario,
or any like everyone should have to, if they are going to voice act for feature films, do a season of an animated show, just to like get that understanding in, and I know we're trapped in sort of the height of this like stunt casting stuff, but like just like a year of it so you understand like the mechanics of how like you have to get the movement of the character completely through your voice, their facial expressions, their emotions. I've been watching a ton of anime, and I watch dubs because I'm a cretin. And I just think about that a lot, just like the skill that it takes to embody a character.
Yeah, I mean, it's
just
funny.
using the sound of your mouth.
We're sidetracking into the Mario trailer,
Sorry.
which we've all seen.
Sorry,
No, it's fine.
I didn't mean to.
No, no.
The what trailer, Matt? You want to run that back one more time?
There's a trailer.
Mario trailer.
Who's Mario?
Mario.
Who could Mario be?
How does he feel about jumping?
But no, I mean, like, I remember people being concerned about Jack Black being Bowser, and like, of course, seeing the trailer, we know he's going to do a great job. But like, I wasn't concerned. The dude has been a panda for the last 10 years, and like, has more than that probably, and like, actually added something to that character in those films.
Literally lived as a panda for a decade.
Exactly, with other pandas.
Other pandas.
But no, I'm with you, and like, I also really just loved that. Like, to go back to what you were saying about like. Ben Schwartz deserving the moon because he did that. He was on DuckTales for a while, and he, really got his chops, and I think that paid off for Sonic because Sonic, even though it's mostly just his voice, the way he animates himself and like is excited as Sonic is because he did the tenure as Dewey, do the do as Dewey, and I think
that youthful energy definitely informed the performance of a youthful character like Sonic. I imagine that Sonic's like a teenager.
I mean, yeah.
In my head, like that's what I think.
I mean,
maybe.
I have no idea though. I've never.
They're
played
not
a
clear
Sonic
on the
game.
age stuff.
Depends
like
on the Sonic though.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the adaptation because the animated TV show, 100%.
Yeah.
Like Sonic from the 2D animation, totally. But I don't know. Other Sonics, Sonic Adventure.
Like, he seems like a young adult at that point. But, like, in the movies, he's like a kid, like a 8-year-old. Like, he's portrayed kind of like a kid who doesn't know anything about the world, which is a way to do it, too.
I think that's because they want that family dynamic, right? Because so this is really weird. The only thing I have seen of the Sonic duology that exists right now is the end of the second movie. And I'm talking like the very end when spoilers. I don't know what the rule on this is, but the very end when Sonic goes supersonic and wins, and then they have that scene where they're all at like the ballpark and they're all hanging out. And it's a big old happy family now. And I'm like, oh, that's the dynamic they're going for with this, huh? It's James Marsden's furry family going on here. Okay. Like that's a way to take it, I guess, that fits for kids for sure.
Yeah.
You don't want Sonic being there like, I don't know, sitting on an old rocker being like, where'd the time go, Tails? Sometimes you keep running so fast, you miss everything that goes by in a blur. Where'd it all go?
Why did time gotta go fast?
Start singing Johnny Cash's version of Hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think if nothing else, I mean, there's definitely a love for the children fans of Sonic in the same way that there were with DuckTales. And what was interesting about watching this film, after watching so much of Ben Schwartz's more pop culture stuff that he's been doing more recently, is like he's playing a 30-something comedian reckoning with his own career. And like, as someone who's in his late 30s, who is also kind of redefining what I want to be known for and what I'm doing. You know, I spent the last 10 years leaning into podcasting, and over the last 2 to 3 years really focusing on it. But like when I go to see my brother and my sister-in-law, my brother thinks that video games are for children and that what I'm doing, the podcast thing, is a hobby. And it's like, it's not. And so to see the frustrations that Ben Schwartz's character is going through with his own family, his mom's supportive, his dad thinks he's living in a fantasy world. It's not the exact same family dynamic that I have, but I can see, like, I felt the emotion of it because I've had those feelings with my own family, who are, for the most part, very supportive, and I'm actually very lucky to have such a loving family, but, like, definitely hit those walls with, like, oh, you're still playing video games for kids, right? Like my son. Yes, your son who's about to go to college and is still playing video games, Seth. Anyway.
Hey, video games, they're kind of art.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this. They're a piece of art that is very interactive.
Well, that's the disconnect that has existed now, and I think, like, granted, our generation and to some extent the next generation is breaking this down, but even beyond the question, you know, it's the very silly question at the end of the day of, are video games art? You know, it's whatever. That's been done, that's been settled. It's more that, like, video games are a medium. You know, video games are an avenue in which to express and explore and to find meaning, or even just to find entertainment. Like, it is a media, and so it's something that I think was traditionally, because it was marketed that way, because it was seen as entertainment for children, it was sold to children explicitly, and it was a new technology. A lot of older people are like, oh, you know, it's just Mario and stuff like that. And you can even show them, like, really fancy video games. They'll be like, oh, it's still just a video game. But it's once I've noticed this with people, is once you get them kind of over the barrier of understanding that it's not just about, like, pushing buttons to make things happen, but it is a communicative. I'm so good at podcasting. It's an avenue of communication for an artist to an audience, the same way that a TV show, a book, or anything else, a song is. And those things can convey many different things, and it is media. And I think that is, like, the greater barrier that a lot of people have jumping over, is they're like, oh, it's bright lights and dinging things, and they're so used to, like, carnival attractions and things like that. They don't see that there is a transference of ideas happening within the medium that is what gets people connected to these things in the first place.
I mean, the video games don't have the ubiquity that TV and movies do, and books
right.
and music. Like, everyone... I mean, that's not true. Like, I had friends who didn't really listen to music growing up or whatever, but, like, just about everyone listens to some music, watches some
You have
movies,
a radio
sees.
in the car.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, whereas you video games, you can go your whole life never having one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not standard in the same way yet. Probably in another 10 to 15 years, it might be.
Even that is changing. You've got smartphones are much more highly adopted. A lot of kids are getting into gaming through smartphones. A lot of kids are getting into gaming through, I mean, even a device like a Nintendo Switch is honestly a lot more financially accessible than a lot of old consoles were. And obviously, you know, parents love that shit. Can we curse on this? Did I drop first curse?
Yes,
Did I break the seal?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're fine. You're good.
You know, parents already love iPads because they can just hand it to Tommy, and Tommy's just going to watch YouTube videos on it. So what better? This one comes with parental controls built in, and it's probably going to hold Tommy's attention a lot more than just YouTube videos are. Like, hell yeah. My parents absolutely bought us Game Boys and Nintendo DS's, and we bought our own 3DS's by the time those were big. We were old enough to buy our own.
Big boys by then.
I was a big boy buying my own Legend of Zelda Gold Nintendo 3DS when it was on sale Black Friday at Target. Many people might remember, as was famously shown in the Rick and Morty episode where Rick goes and buys a bunch of them. That was one of the few moments where a TV show did a callback, and I was like, I know exactly what year that was because I was Rick in that moment. But yeah, it's like you give them to the kids, they'll play, and then they end up discovering weird things and then become a video games journalist years down the line.
Right,
And that's
exactly.
just the pipeline, you know?
It's a cautionary tale is what Eric is telling
Yeah.
us. Exactly.
Yes, parents, don't let your babies grow up to be video game journalists. That's the new
Exactly.
That's the new jam.
There are worse reasons for why I am the way I am, but that's mostly don't let a kid watch Evangelion too young.
That's
Oh,
yeah.
boy, I watched that at 34, and I think I was still too young.
I watched that at age 12, and boy, did that
Ooh,
just.
that'd do it.
You ever learn about depression before you're in high school?
To take it back to the film briefly, though.
Your
To pull
dramatic
up on the
comedy
stick a little
I
bit.
know, right? To
Yeah.
get us out of this nosedive.
Oh no, where are we?
To be fair, I put us here by talking about
I
depression.
think I did it though. I blame
Could have
myself.
been any one of us. But like the thing about this film, as my spouse returns home and Otis shows his excitement for the arrival of my spouse. The thing about this film I think that I really liked is it just was very slice of life, kind of average, and like realistically depicting depression and struggle. And look, everyone has lived different kinds of lives, and not everyone struggles with depression. But as someone who does, thank you, Otis, for that addition to the podcast, because I'm sure Rachel is not going to edit it out, because why would you edit out my dog howling?
No pets get edited out of this. I'm gonna put a disclaimer at the end, like the Humane Society on the credits, of
Yeah.
no pets are edited out.
No
of
pets
this.
have been edited in the process of this production.
Every pet is a blessing, and every interruption they make to our show elevates it.
But like I like realistic depictions of depression and struggle. Because so the thing is, when anyone arrives home, Otis is so excited to play.
Yeah.
He tells you about his day. He rues about his day. That's just how it goes. But
He's also very upset that we're talking about anxiety and depression.
It's true.
Like,
That's
too
true.
heavy.
Too
Too
heavy.
heavy.
but I don't know. We're talking about Ava earlier. Like I just engaging with that stuff, depending on the level and your preparedness, I think is worth it. And especially for me as someone who has gone through that, has had ups and downs with it. And I think it's a really great film. I think if you like stand-up comedy, if you like legends like Billy Crystal, and if you're a fan of like realistic, like down-to-earth stories, I think Standing Up, Falling Down is a really great film and worth a watch.
Brilliant. Well, Matt,
Yes.
if you had to describe the film Standing Up, Falling Down in just 3 words, and you cannot use standing, falling, up, or down, how would you describe this piece?
Funny and real.
Funny and real. I like it. Very good.
I think that, if you have Hulu, it costs you nothing. So I think definitely if you have Hulu, definitely give it a shot, I think. But it again, it's funny, but also dramatic, and there are some down points. And so I think with fair warning. I never like to blindside viewers with depression because, I don't know, as someone who struggles with it, like no one wants to see that without knowing it's coming.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Well, now enough of that, though, Rachel. I assume that you've been watching anime by your prior comment, but
Yes.
Yes. So what animation sensation have you brought us this week on the pod?
Oh boy. You know how I love to live in phases. I'm now in my anime phase once again. I completed Inuyasha, got through the final act.
Nice.
Loved it. I can't believe I waited decades to finish it.
Oh.
But that's the way of the beast. Yeah, I watched it like when it was on syndication on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And then like I didn't even know the final act had happened. I was just like, oh, I guess that's all forever. Who knew? I did start Yashahime. I don't love it. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's no Legend of Korra.
Okay.
In terms of like continuing the legacy. It's fine. I think everybody is doing a really good job on it. All the voice actors are great. It looks beautiful, like looks really great, but it's fine. It's cool. But what I have most recently finished the first season of, and I'm so very delighted about it, I consumed all of the delicious, delightful debauchery that is Food Wars.
Oh.
Hell yes.
Oh my god.
Oh
I love
my
it.
god. I have
love
been
it.
waiting for an avenue to talk about Food Wars for
I love
years.
It. Oh my god.
This is it. Okay, cool.
I'm
What's
freaking
up?
out because I don't know how to find season 2. I don't know
You
what
haven't
to do
seen
with
season
myself.
2 yet?
No, I just started
Oh,
season
right,
1.
because you just watched season 1. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you
this
right now,
is
the
my
last
first
season,
taste.
the last season didn't happen. Last season didn't happen. Don't
Okay.
worry about it.
Cool,
Don't
cool.
watch it. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's for like context purposes. What I understand to have happened is that it was originally a manga in Shonen Jump, and the writer of the manga had a food critic who was basically advising throughout the entirety of the manga, which is why the cooking in that show is so freaking good.
Makes me so hungry.
That person left it was like this is all internet anime speculation, so take it with the biggest grain of salt, just like a full boulder, if you will.
A delicious smoked grain of salt.
But this person had to take leave in some way, and so not only is the cooking not really a focus of the last season, but they also pull some weird stuff with like, oh, here's long lost relative, and also we're going to get a little Targaryen with it and stuff like that. So like, just don't. The season before it has an incredible ending. Like if the series ended there, I would have been like standing ovation, happy, and then they put like a stinger in for the next season, and I was just like, why? Why?
Noted.
No, that show is absolutely incredible.
it's-
It's so good.
It's so I love a good like shonen-y
Mm-hmm.
battle anime, and this one is just made food so dramatic
Mm-hmm.
in its presentation, in the way that the characters describe flavors, and of course in the fact that when they eat something really delicious,
Mm-hmm.
they go full fan service and have what have been termed foodgasm.
Yep.
I've seen more ass this past week watching the first season of Food Wars than I saw in the entirety of my burlesque career. No joke. I can't believe it. And going into it, I got into it because I've been listening to a lot of anime themes. Just, you know, it's hype and good stuff. And the first Food Wars theme was so good, I was like, I gotta watch this show. You know it's good when a theme pulls you in.
Oh, yeah,
and
totally.
And the first foodgasm happens in like a couple minutes.
That first episode is a stumbling block for sure.
Yeah. And it was very much like, okay. And then they eat something disgusting, and then it gets super hentai, and I was like, I'm not sure about this. And I also am really sure about this. Like,
It's
I
an
think I
opening
love it.
thing of like, are you cool with where we're about to go?
So we're gonna
Like,
Yeah.
this is
check in.
delicious food, incredible cooking, and a whole lot of just ass everywhere. Yeah.
And honestly, I love that. Like I've already had this conversation about like I miss sex in media. Like a lot. I think we've hit this sort of like family friendly Disney, MCU, Star Wars, sexless like
The fact that the MCU is
environment.
finally addressing sex is nice. They're finally like, okay, we'll let some heroes fuck.
yeah,
Like,
they're allowed. It's cool, don't worry.
only some though. Only
Only
very
some.
specific ones.
Yeah, and mostly it's gonna be because it's funny, not because it's meaningful or anything. No. But I love so much that they make the connection of the sensuality of food and the sensuality of like human existence, especially like being a teenager, just like this amped up sexuality. It's very much like if my hero and like Evangelion, like without the sad parts, like got together and were just like, let's really talk about sex without talking about sex, but also like liberate ourselves in terms of like being able to express
Yes.
high emotions
Oh, yes.
around delicious food. I love it. It hits me on lots of levels. Not all of them are intellectual, if you know what I mean. everybody's naked. It's great.
First season, remind me where that ends.
That ends right in the midst of the fall selection. So they just did round 1. And so you have the final 8 going into the
you need to see season 2 because I have
to find season 2.
So the end of the fall selection arc. I have said this before. I think Soma is one of the best shonen protagonists
Agreed.
ever. Mm-hmm. And I can only make that argument once we get to the end of the fall selection arc, but I really think that you hit the nail on the head in terms of expression, because this is a series that is so much about putting yourself on a plate. There are so many, especially when you go into the fall selection, which is honestly one of the best like arcs of the show. So I'm very excited for you to like get into the thick of it. It is so much about who are you on a plate? What does your cooking represent? I think at this point you've already seen the face off in the basement between the one chef and Megami. Yeah, and I love that part where the big guy Dojima is like, you've hit a plateau in your cooking, haven't you, chef? And everyone's like, but it's such a relatable thing that this dude who has worked towards something his whole life and has basically formed his identity around getting these Michelin stars and becoming the first Japanese cook to open a huge French restaurant and master French cooking so he can bring it back home to his mom, who he just wants to make happy. He has done it. He's reached it. And now he is paralyzed because where do you go once you've achieved your dream? What do you do?
You've made this such an individual goal that it has pushed everyone else of worth out of your life.
Yes.
Because you've been so singular.
And he's so distant from all his friends too. Yeah, they're all in the background like, we want to help you. We want to help out. And he's like, no, I have to stay focused on my goal. But he doesn't have a goal anymore. So he just has what dream he has and the fears of losing that dream. And like this is a show that will have moments like that I think are honestly some incredible storytelling.
Oh yeah.
And then it'll be like, yo, this lady ate a cake and now she's like food-gasming over here and she's going
she's swimming in an ocean and little baby chefs are like and the way shooting her with arrows.
The way they come up with like sensual situations that also describe the like intricacies of the plate is so incredible.
Oh
like,
yeah, just like you can almost like taste it the way that these flavors are interacting numbs the lips.
It's so good.
Oh yeah, it makes me so hungry.
There are multiple dishes that I've tried to recreate because I've been trying to learn how to cook. That was like something that started in the pandemic and just has like continued from there. And I love that every time I watch that show or rewatch that show, because it's something I can just put on in the background for the most part. Keep that volume control nearby sometimes. But I will be like watching it and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that would, if you cook the fish that way, that would keep it crispy. That would be really good. And then I go cook some salmon the next night and I'm like, oh, this super works. This is really nice. It is a show that I think there are a lot of anime out there that are very fan servicey and people will be like, oh, but it's really good underneath. Food Wars is the one I will go to war for, is the one I will fight the battle for. It's one of the better non-battle battle anime out there.
Yeah, it's fan servicey in a way that like everybody gets the fan service.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, the pretty girls.
The dudes later on. Oh my god.
I'm so excited. I mean, I really love an anime when I work really hard to like get every character's name, because this is also like got a lot of characters, like the entire dormitory.
Oh, there's so many characters. Yeah,
very fun, very distinct students, you know, and they have very distinct cuisine styles, and I'm so excited during this portion of the fall selection to really dig into their styles, the one who smokes all of his food, or the one that has wild game as an important part of her dishes, and really, and just like wanting to go back and rewatch all those episodes so I can like put in my memory all of the fun titles they got, like Prince of Smoke.
Oh, they all have great titles, like little subtitles that come in under them. Yeah,
it really gives me that My Hero Academia vibe. And like I absolutely adore My Hero Academia. Like, it is the anime that reminded me that, like, I love anime. This is like, oh yeah, right. This shit fucking rules. This is amazing. And Food Wars is like really like filling that like space where My Hero has just been waiting for like the next season to come out. Yeah, just and everyone has interesting relationships with each other, and I like that they are competitive, but they are also like a little bit of a found family, you know, like
absolutely.
They're trying to one up each other in the kitchen, but then they also just are like, I'm gonna feed you. Like, let's make some food because we love cooking.
They learn from each other too. They're always big on like, let's have a battle so that way like even if I lose, I learn something and then can advance myself. It's a really cool series for that.
Yeah, my one sorrow is I have personal ships, and I don't think they're gonna fall that way, and it makes me really sad.
There's not. I will say right now that largely there is not a lot of overt romance in the show. And it plays into some of the anime stuff of like you can't let the main character settle on a character. You know, it's like Tenchi Muyo doesn't have the tension if Tenchi just immediately falls for one girl and doesn't pay attention to any of the other ones. You need that romantic tension, right?
Yeah,
and
I also just came off a Fruits Basket watch, and so like my brain is very keyed into like, okay, so we've got Erina, we've got Megumi. Who's the final girl?
Yeah.
Who's it gonna be?
I will say I like that even though it does feel like they set up the Erina Megumi stuff very early, it doesn't fall too hard into turning that into like a Betty and Veronica situation. And also they kind of introduce some other pairs and characters. Like you've already met Erina's cousin.
Alice.
Alice and Ryoji, I believe, is her pal's name. They're just best friends, you know?
They're just pals.
Yeah, and I really like already that specifically like Soma and Megumi's relationship is really built on a deep friendship and colleagueship. Like their first interaction is being paired in a class, and like Soma builds up Megumi's confidence over time, and Megumi respects like the way Soma's brain works as somebody who was raised working in a kitchen from a young age and having to like come up with dishes. Like they complement each other really, really well as two characters, and I would just watch those two solve crimes. You know, like that's the kind of vibe I get from them. I just love them so much, and it's so great that they take time to sort of build everybody out, and it's strange that they're built out the best through the way they taste food.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
like you see so much visually of how they interpret the world around them. You know, like Erina's entire like, I don't want to call her a super taster, but it feels like she's a super taster.
She's the god tongue.
She's the god tongue.
God
she
tongue.
is the most cultured palate of all. Where she's tasting something and it's like, oh, I'm in a hot spring. Why is there a gorilla here? You know, just these wild visuals of just like, I get it. You know, I get that moment of like, oh, that flavor turned on me and now it's strange, you know, and the way that the description of how the food feels to them is also met with this like frenzied series of sexual visuals. It's so fun to look at.
'Cause when you eat good food, let me tell you, there was a shepherd's pie I had once that I almost cried while eating it. I'm not even joking. It was so good. I like legitimately, it had some sort of like red wine reduction in it that it just went with the meat, and the potatoes were cooked perfectly. And it was just like the cheese was just right. It was almost not even there. It was so liquidy and melding in with the potatoes. And I was just like, I was having a moment at a family dinner. I was like, everyone just give me some space right now, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that comparison, like, I haven't seen Food Wars, but I've heard about it, and I've been wanting to watch it, but, like, that comparison of sexuality and food and, like, how they go together. I mean, when Sarah and I will go out for dinner or go somewhere, if one of us has a dish that's, like, really good, we will say to them, do you need a moment? Should I leave you two alone? Like,
I'll have what they're having.
Right. And it's a joke, but it's also serious. Like there's a similarity in the rush of endorphins and emotions. And so to make that leap in the anime, as absurd as it is, makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. It's also super, super smart in the way that it handles its descriptions.
Yeah.
I love watching cooking competition shows. I love them so much. And what Food Wars does in a way that I deeply love is they get really granular about these flavor profiles in a way that I don't think a lot of competition shows will do. They'll be like, oh, I really like this, and they'll like sort of explain what's going on or what didn't work, but they don't get poetic about it. And Food Wars gets poetic about how this food tastes and how it feels and like what it is doing to you. It's beautiful. I want all of them to graduate. I want them all to become famous chef entrepreneurs. I want to eat all of their food.
I cannot wait for you to watch the rest of it, because from what I'm hearing, you are going to love the next few seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely
I'm
fantastic.
So pumped. I also really loved the camp sequence of just like the different challenges.
Yes, yeah,
where,
the food
they
camp.
had to do like the buffet.
He made the omelets, but he didn't think. He was like, they deflate. What are you doing, Soma?
No,
But he's like, no, I'm gonna rally. I'm gonna turn it
Genius
into a
writing.
spectacle. It's
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Show is
and
so
just
good.
like even like these little like side characters are sort of like fellow members of the dormitory are so rich. Like I think it's Zenji.
Oh,
Zenji.
the one that's always dying.
They're always in his room and he's always dying.
Struggle
Just wants to be
character.
left alone.
Love him.
And
yeah.
then in the fall, you get another aspect of his life as someone who really wants to study food from a literary aspect. And there's just like a gaggle of nerds who are just like, yeah, you made a dish, you go.
He's got a whole
Megumi's
side
little town
story going on.
Fisher
Yeah.
family. Like I just everyone is so complex, you know. No one is just a nothing burger, you know. Everybody's got something, an interest, a dream. It's great. It's delicious.
Well, Rachel, if you had to sum up your thoughts on Food Wars without using the word food or wars, and food actually I feel like is going to be tough to not use.
It's gonna be tough, yeah.
What 3 words would you use to describe this incredible anime?
Oh boy. Sumptuous shonen dish.
All right, there it is. Sumptuous shonen dish.
I couldn't think of a third
S word.
S one.
Yeah,
but
that happens.
you know.
You got there.
I love that they describe every episode as a course.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Their
Awesome.
little like one shot lines in the like title cards as well. It's just so rich.
It's
so
very good.
Oh, it's so
very,
good.
very good.
Wait, how do I find season 2? Please tell me, internet. I'm
We'll
losing
find
my
that out.
mind.
We'll find that out.
Ugh. I gotta keep going.
Well, now it is our illustrious guest's turn. Eric Van Allen of Destructoid, Normandy FM, and Blood God fame. What have you most recently watched?
So I'm gonna keep this anime trend going.
Nice. Do it.
I watched the first episode of something this week, and it's something I've been waiting a long time for. Are y'all familiar with Chainsaw Man?
So I've heard about it, but I've not actually read or watched it yet. But I've heard about it.
My algorithms have been blowing up about it. Like Chainsaw Man is all over my YouTube feed, and it was the first thing on whatever streaming app it's available on.
Yeah. Chainsaw Man is originally a manga that started in Shonen Jump, is now in Jump Plus, their online subscription service. It is by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who is until Chainsaw Man, I would say he was relatively lesser known. And granted, I'm coming into this late. So earlier in the year, I had heard tell about Chainsaw Man from some folks. Shout outs to folks like Yuta Jackson who were out there talking about Chainsaw Man. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm not like a huge manga dude, which might surprise people who are looking at my webcam right now, but it will all make sense in a moment. But I'll try it out. I'll see what all the hubbub's about, because just, do with chainsaw hands. Like, that's fun. Why not? So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to spoil the first episode of Chainsaw Man in its entirety. I think that's very important because number one, the first episode is very good, even if you know exactly what is going to happen beat by beat. And I can tell you that from experience because that is how I watched it. But also because it largely sets up why Chainsaw Man is interesting. Denji is a young man, we are led to believe about 14 or 15, whose father, I'm also going to like blanket content warning this thing. It is a dark anime manga series. His father has died. They largely theorize it to be suicide. He was deeply in debt to the mob and could not pay off his debt. Denji is left holding the stub, and he lives in a shack. He eats a slice of bread every day and dreams of one day being able to put jam on said bread. He works different jobs, including cutting down trees. He has sold one of his testicles, one of his eyes, and a few other of his organs to try and make payoffs on his father's massive gambling debt. His only companion is a small dog named Pochita. Pochita, as it happens, is a devil. And devils in the world of Chainsaw Man embody human fear of things. So say, for example, you are the death devil. Everyone's scared of death, right? And so that devil is going to be really powerful and really strong. But say you're like, I don't know, the cockroach devil. Like, yeah, you might be intimidating, but you're not darkness or the void or war or anything like that. Pochita is, just as far as we know, a devil that happens to have a chainsaw that can pop out of his mouth. Denji befriends him, which is unusual. Humans obviously are normally eaten by devils. And so Denji has struck up an accord with Pochita. Basically says, like, I will help keep you alive if you help keep me alive. So he uses Pochita as a chainsaw to chop down trees. He also hunts devils with Pochita. Okay, so that's the setup. This is like the first 15 minutes of Chainsaw Man, episode 1. There's a scene where Denji is walking away from having just hunted down a devil and sawed it in half with a chainsaw for some cash to sell off to the mob. And one of the mobsters is like, so that kid will really do anything for cash, huh? And they're like, yeah, it's great. He's like, hey, I'll give you $20 if you swallow this cigarette. And Denji does. Because, well, he swallows it and then spits it back up and is like, haha, got him. But
I only put it in my mouth and kept it there. Got him.
Only held it in the back of my throat and then coughed it back out. Anyways, so Denji, starving, lying there in a shack in the middle of the night, can't even sleep because of how hungry he is. And the longer he stays awake, the more he thinks about money, and that makes it even harder for him to sleep. He's just telling his little dog, Pochita, his little adorable dog, Pochita. Y'all got to look up a Google image of Pochita as the most adorable thing you've ever seen in your life. Pochita. He's just telling Pochita, all I want to do is take a girl on a date one day. I want to, live. I want to sleep in a bed. And I just want to eat some bread with some jam on it. That is the height of it. The mob comes to pick him up to take him to his next devil hunt and murders him. They just kill him. They just stab him to death in what is honestly one of the more visceral anime scenes I've ever seen in my life. They have been taken over by the zombie devil, and the zombie devil doesn't like devil hunters. So the zombie devil orders them to just chop him into pieces while he's alive and dump him in the dumpster along with Pochita. But while he's in the dumpster, Pochita's blood mixes with Denji's, and they forge a new contract. And Pochita says, I will be your heart. I will become your heart if you show me what your dreams, bring your dreams to fruition. And he erupts out of that dumpster with chainsaw hands and a chainsaw head and rips those frickin' zombies to shreds in one of the most metal anime scenes I have ever seen in my life. Just ripping and tearing. And at one point he pulls his intestine out and whips it around and swings around like he's Spider-Man and slashes a zombie's head off. Chainsaw Man. So that's the broad setup. Eventually, a woman named Makima from the state government shows up. and says, hey, you're a devil, but look, we hunt devils. But how about you come work for us? So you can either work for us or we'll kill you. If you've seen Jujutsu Kaisen, it's kind of a similar situation where it's like, we are probably going to have to kill you, but if you work for us, we'll overlook it if you hunt devils for us. Chainsaw Man is something that on its face seems like a grimdark, super edgy, violent anime that is really about what capitalism does to a human. Like what oppressive forces controlled by the state, controlled by others, can do to someone, and how they exist to keep people in control and in line. And along the way, it makes commentary about gun violence. It makes commentary about the state's own, perpetuation of said violence. It makes commentary about the worth of money. It talks about the value of love and what love can mean to somebody, because Denji just wants to touch a boob, but then he touches a boob and he's like, this isn't really doing anything for me. And he's like, oh, I just had a realization. I think I might like touching a boob if I cared more about the person the boob was attached to. And Denji grows, Denji learns. And along the way, it is one of the most heartbreaking, I am not ready for some of the scenes in this manga to get adapted, because there's some stuff that happens in that series that's incredible, but it is the thing that has now gotten me into manga. It has gotten me into the works of Fujimoto. It is frankly one of the best things I've read in the last decade, and I think is honestly necessary reading for anybody, but also now the anime is coming out, so it's now necessary viewing, and the first episode of the anime is fantastic, if you can't tell. So that's my long pitch on Chainsaw Man.
I'm sold. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm there.
yeah.
I got nervous when you started mentioning a dog. I'm not too far away from watching JoJo, and I'm just like, I'm always scared for dogs.
Yes.
It's just an anime forever, but I did look up Pochita, and holy socks, what a cutie.
Pochita is adorable, even cuter in the anime, if you would believe it. And yeah, Pochita, it's kind of a weird situation that Pochita sits in, because Pochita is still a character, kind of, but is also like the heart of Denji. So it's kind of weird. It plays fast and loose a little bit.
You're telling me that an anime where a chainsaw shoots out of a man's hands and face
plays
weird?
A little fast and loose. Yeah.
Seems to stack up.
It's frankly incredible. Like and I know I'm broadly talking about the manga now. The anime is only in its first episode. I think it's going to run up through the first half of what you would call like the first broad story arc of Chainsaw Man, which right now Chainsaw Man is probably about 6 chapters into the second broad story arc. But it is really incredible without saying too much. It is really about like what people deal with under the systems that they have to live in, and that they have to live in. Like that is an important thing to emphasize, is that Denji is forced to live like this. He very rarely has agency to make his own choices. And even in, ripping apart one master, he has now been brought on to another. But it's about finding the happiness that you can in the gaps and cracks in which you can find it, and potentially one day creating a future where you can have the dreams that you have dreamed of, and maybe even dare to dream higher. But also all the heartbreaking ways in which the system will continually destroy those dreams. So it is really a phenomenal story that I can't recommend enough. It's just the best. I love it.
Amazing. Well, Eric, if you had to sum up Chainsaw Man in just 3 words, and you could not use the word chainsaw or man, what 3 words would you use to describe this anime?
Oh boy. Rip, tear, woof.
Nice. I love it. Rip, tear, woof. Excellent. Well said. Well said. I will have to check this out. I've been hearing, like, I also follow Gita on Twitter, and so, like, from the moment Gita started interacting with Chainsaw Man, I saw their posts, and so, like, I've been interested. It's now time to pull the trigger, I think, and actually watch the thing, since it has an anime now.
Yeah. And I would like, if you've ever been curious about manga as a form, all of the volumes are up on the Manga Plus website, and a subscription there is like $4 a month. It's like nothing. And it's very readable. It's very understandable. I found it very easy to get through. I've since started reading other manga that doesn't have the same attention to art and flow that Chainsaw Man always does, and I think it does really cool, interesting things with the way that Fujimoto panels the series, and the way that Fujimoto will have these kinds of tense moments of building up and then these big double page explosions of action. But then also, like, people kind of gave him some crap early on about like, oh, the way he animates faces is kind of weird, but you kind of start to notice like the way he'll just let a shot linger. And I know that sounds weird to say in a manga, but like he really does have almost a film-like approach to making something you read, something you see visually on a page and turn the page, but it feels filmic in the way that you watch. I keep saying watch because it feels like you are watching something, like you are getting this sort of cinematic approach in a way that I don't just say that as like, oh, it's cinematic because it's got deep themes. Or no, it feels like you were thinking with a camera, like you were thinking with moving picture, even though it is static images, and it's really interesting. He's a really incredible author. So
yeah, I've dabbled with manga over the years. Manga. It's like Mario. But Full Metal Alchemist, I read as it was coming out in the U.S., but then fell off. But so this sounds like it might be up my alley. I have the first couple of manga of Afro Samurai, which is incredible. So yeah, it definitely seems like something worth checking out. Well, Eric, it's so great to have you here on my on this very podcast. I've had you on Reignite before, but I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about your journalism, because we haven't actually, like, for as long as we've been friends, I actually don't know your whole story, your spiel. But I know you've been doing it for a while, and also you had started kind of young, like looking into it. Was it just you grew up playing games and you're like, I'm gonna be a journalist someday?
So it's interesting because from, I would say, a relatively young age, I knew I wanted to be a writer of some kind. I knew that writing, reading, English was kind of something that I knew I wanted to get into. But as far as actual journalism and then even further beyond that, video game journalism goes, that was all much later in life. I took a lot of like high level English courses in high school and stuff that put me on the track of enjoying writing, enjoying English. Then when I got to college, classic college story. They ask you at 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life, and I don't even know what people do. That's a thing I haven't thought of before. I've told this story a few times that I went to school initially with this idea that I was going to be a composer, and I do still really love music and composition and stuff, but I think a mixture of, I took a class early on that was like a history of jazz class that I absolutely loved, but it made me realize that I enjoyed it as a hobby, as a pastime, but it was not something I wanted to work in. It was not something I wanted to ply my trade in, Whereas writing was something that both came naturally to me and was something that I was okay with doing a lot of every single day. And so I kind of bounced around for a bit. And by junior year of college, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea why I was in the major I was in. I was in a kind of a general journalism track, but veering towards what I would eventually get my degree in, which was electronic media. I was sitting in a class that I took because my friends took it. One of those classic stories. It was about sports and the media. And someone got up at the front day one and was like, hey, we don't have a student-produced media show. We don't have a student-produced sports show. Other colleges do. I think we need to fix that. So I'm going to start one. And if you would like to join in and partake, we do not care what level of experience you have. We are all figuring this out together. Show up. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, I can either let all these years pass me by, or I can at least try. And if I try, maybe then I'll figure out whether this is the thing I want to do or whether I need to go do something else. The rest is history. We formed the Double T Insider, which is Texas Tech's sports show that is, I think, still running to some capacity, but we managed to get it from a library, literally staying up late at the library, making it on library computers, and literally someone would have to sit there and like move the mouse on all the computers because they had that automatic sleep timer, and if they went to sleep they would like wipe your data of whatever you're working on. So if we had computers rendering, somebody had to sit there and like move mouses every 10 minutes to like make sure we didn't lose our progress. We went from that to having our own office, our own equipment, being syndicated on Fox Sports Southwest in the span of 2 years. It was absolutely incredible. And I found a love for telling stories. I found a love for telling human stories, sitting people down in front of a camera, in front of whatever I could that could record them, and hearing about their lives and telling their stories. At the same time, I was also doing some video game work, some really light, like just kind of hanging out, chatting with friends, like, oh, I played Grand Theft Auto 5 and it was wild, y'all. It was crazy. It was a huge, big open world. And it was fun, but it was not something that I considered an avenue for a profession at the time. And then around the time that I was graduating, I started getting into esports, and that would eventually, over the many years, blossom into my first job at Compete, which was Kotaku's esports vertical, RIP Compete, because it closed like a year and a half later due to reasons. And I enjoyed that. I had a great time doing that. And while I was there, I got to talk to a lot of people who were deep into games. And even before that, I'd been doing some game reviews and games freelancing. I'd been an intern for Paste magazine, covering games for them, reviewing games for them. And through that was how I got exposed to a lot of writing from people like Austin Walker, people like Kirk Hamilton, Gita Jackson, a lot of the up and coming voices that really inspired me to see that there was more to talk about in a video game than just about whether the graphics look good or not, right? This way of, like I was talking about at the beginning of the show, like video games are a transference of ideas, right? And embracing that around a game rather than just kind of looking at it as what game do and do it do good. And after Compete went down, I did a lot of freelancing and then found myself at US Gamer. RIP US Gamer. Because that's this industry, baby. But I met a lot of great people there. Did a lot of great work that I'm very proud of there. That was where I met Kat Bailey and Nadia Oxford, who are my co-hosts on Axe of the Blood God, which became an independent RPG podcast after the closure of US Gamer. And they brought me on to co-host about, I think, actually a year ago at this point. It's been about a full year. And I should also mention that as I was coming up and getting into the industry, I met my good friend Kenneth Shepard, who's probably yelling at the podcast right now that I haven't mentioned him yet. And he had dared me at one point, because we had known each other for years at this time, to do a podcast about Mass Effect. We'd never managed to turn a mic on and talk about Mass Effect together. So we finally made Normandy FM, which has been going strong for several years at this point, as a retrospective podcast. So between all that and then getting into my current gig at Destructoid, I've been in the industry for about, going on 7 years now. Sounds about right. 2015 is kind of where I ballpark my start in the industry.
I mean, you're practically the old guard now.
I know, right? I'm aging. I'm ancient. I am the Stone Guardian. Yeah, it is weird because there are days, I was telling my dad this just the other day, actually, where I remember a very specific day when I was starting out freelancing in 2015, when I was still staying with my parents because I was not making enough freelancing to afford apartment payments. And that is, I will stress, there are a lot of people who struggle to get into the industry because there is a lot of low pay and a lot of stories come up like that where people just have circumstances that let them overcome some of the blockers to that. And so I have to be cognizant of that when I talk about my journey into the industry. There was a lot of luck and a lot of love that got me where I am today. But I was sitting with my parents in the backyard and pretty much having a breakdown because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it into this industry. There is no reasonable way that I have of measuring whether I have made it or not. And I was sitting there the other day remembering that moment now that I'm at my third video game site and I've risen up the ranks and I am about as in the industry as one can claim to be. I don't know how it happens. I still don't know. Like I said, it's a lot of luck, a lot of love, a lot of help and support from people when I needed it, a lot of being in the right place at the right time. But that's kind of my path, I guess, is just all stemming off of raising your hand at the right time, you know?
I mean, I love that.
If that's not the way of it, though, like...
It really is. It really is. That is the one thing I always stress when people ask me. They're like, how do I get into this industry? You know, there's no path. There's no set. There's no silver bullet I can hand you.
You show up, get your face seen.
You raise your hand. And you find, and the other crucial part of that situation is you find people who have that passion and you build each other up. Because I had that at the Double T. I had that with Ken and Blake Hester and some other people that I was coming up with at the time who we all had a passion to get into the industry and a drive to want to make it work and also a drive to help each other improve in the process because we wanted to see each other succeed. And that, I think, is the most crucial thing you can find.
I mean, I agree. I think, like, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, but befriending you and Ken and Jesse Vitelli, all previous guests of the show, Brendan Groom, future guest of the show, like all like-minded folks who not only have a passion for the work that we do in and around whatever industries we're working in, but also just have a good sense of humor and care about each other, which is mind-blowing. If you care about each other, you can support each other. I know, strange.
Wait, are you saying that communities are a powerful way to navigate in a world that is slowly dying under the boot of capitalism? That when we build horizontal structures together, that helps. That we can find happiness and success.
Read Chainsaw Man, Places and Sleeper.
But I like that you bring up with Ken, which is a story that I heard before, is practically a dare to start the podcast. Because I mean, that's more or less how
he really called my bluff on that one.
He really did. You're still going now, all the way over to Cyberpunk now. But like, I mean, with Rachel and I, it was the same thing. A lot that we've joked about forever, our lost pilot episode that we did with an incredible director that just won't ever see the light of day because it was terrible. Like, we did that and we thought it was done, and then Rachel came back to me like, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, and just went, hey, remember that thing we did? It was fun. Do you actually want to do it? And I was like, yeah.
If I may add to the lore, the very first time we sat down for 2.0 of this, you looked at me and went, what should our structure be? And I was like, I don't know, just talk about the last thing we watched. And here we are now, just like
literally,
just follow it. You know, if it sounds weird, who cares? You can always change it.
Make things.
Things.
Yeah.
That is the weirdest stumbling block that so many young writers, I think, run into is, and that's another part of like raising your hand, right? Is like, just go make something. It doesn't matter. Are you kidding me? Those first episodes were dog shit. They were terrible.
Every podcast's early episodes are not as good as their later episodes.
Yeah, I had to learn for Double T. I had to learn how to do motion graphics, and I'm not kidding you. I had to go from having never opened Adobe After Effects to making chirons and lower thirds in the span of a week, and so it was myself and another guy down there. Just watching YouTube tutorial videos at like 3 a.m, trying to piece together how this program operated and how we can make it do what it did. And we got there. Darn it. And that's all you have to do is you just have to sit down and say, I'm going to make something. And I don't care if it doesn't turn out good.
Yeah.
Guess what? a lot of the things you make aren't going to be your best work. That's
Nope.
just the end all be all of it. But you're not going to make anything if you never push yourself to start it in the first place, which is even something I'm overcoming now as I'm trying to learn new skills and hobbies, is try to get myself over that barrier of stop just thinking of ideas and make something, do something, push yourself forward in some way. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, the reason I have any freelance editing gigs is because I literally in Audacity taught myself how to cut audio together. And like,
yeah.
man, the earliest episodes of CPOV Autographs, especially my interview series, were recorded via an app on my phone that then exported it to my computer. And it was like the hottest of garbage. Probably most of the early like 15 to 20 episodes are unlistenable. But I did it and I put them out and they still exist and you can go listen to them. Like, I think that that's the hardest thing. And like, I think what's really interesting about your career, Eric, as I've watched it and gone back and read older stuff and newer stuff.
Oh God, don't read my old work.
You seem to have a specific voice. What I like about your articles that you've written, whether you're writing about Fire Emblem or Persona or Mass Effect or whatever, is that you do have kind of like snarky, not necessarily cynical, but like an analytical eye in your voice. And I think, like, is that something that kind of just came naturally, or did you really have to like focus and hone to find your voice in your writing?
If I was to try and like distill my own writing down, it like falls into a few categories, right? Because there's the part of me when I'm writing an opinion piece and I kind of crack out, here's opinion Eric, and he's gonna have some takes, right? But then if I'm writing like a history of something, like the kid duct taped to the ceiling is still one of my like most widely read pieces. That was all investigative work. That was all like very straightforward telling, but I wanted to add like an air of rosy nostalgia to it, right? And I kind of like that stuff. I did a Marvel vs. Capcom retrospective while I was at US Gamer that was very much about not just, what was Marvel versus Capcom 2 20 years later, but like what was it to the people that played it? Like what about that experience created so much love, so much devotion, so many moments that people only associate with Marvel, baby, with Marvel.
Baby.
There's that kind of stuff, and every once in a while I'll turn on the sentimental side. It was really funny. I'd never gone back to revisit one piece of mine because it was maybe the most personal I've ever gotten in a story, and it was my life in 3,000 hours of Dota. And it was written about how I had literally spent 3,000 hours playing a video game, and like what has changed over my life in those times and what has stayed the same and what has been different, and kind of this thing that acts as a constant, this social forum that even reflects the changes of the person that is accessing it every day, starts to tell a story about the person that is putting those hours into it. And going back to read it, I was like, I wrote this? Like this, I don't know, and not in a bad way even. It was like, I wrote this, but also like that was a different person writing that than it is right now. And so I think that's the thing is I always get caught up in trying to think about like, what is my voice? How do I define myself? And largely the answer is I am who I am right now. I write the way I write right now, and I write the way I need to write for the thing I need to write, and to get whatever emotion it is I'm trying to get across, whether I want it to be funny, whether I want it to be snarky, whether I want it to be heartfelt or sentimental, or whether I just want to talk about that good crunch in a tactics game, that sweet crunch. That's I change with the times. I change with who I am as a person. And that's more steps from Eric, who said, I can't tell you how to get into games, but I can't tell you how to get into writing. Chase your curiosities, chase your interests. A curious mind is one that is always going to find something new to learn and discover. And I am never more bummed out than when I hear about people who, I think the most creatively stagnant times of my life were when I only worked. It is so crucial to have other things in your life to draw experiences from, to draw interests from, to learn from, to grow from, to fail in, that that then inform the things you are doing. So yeah, I do recommend you stop writing at some point. I know I said to just make things, but make a thing and then go do something else. Go find a different hobby. Go, I don't know, just party. Go get your heart broken. I don't care, and then bring it back to your writing. Because I think that is what has affected my voice the most over the years, is just how my interests and out of work life stuff has changed as the years have gone on.
I love that. That's really brilliant. I'm curious because you're on 2 incredible podcasts. One of them I've been on, and the other I will someday. We got to figure out what RPGs you play.
I
mean, I play a ton, but I mean, I've joked.
You heard of this game called Moss Effect?
Moss Effect.
Moss Effect, yeah.
But like, I think it's really interesting how you're very much yourself on both shows, but in different ways because you're showing different sides of yourself. I mean, there's a lot of overlap with Normandy. You guys have covered a lot of RPGs on Normandy, obviously. But like, podcasting is a thing. Like, again, Ken called your bluff and was actually willing to edit and produce the thing. And now
don't challenge him. Don't challenge him.
Oh, I learned that early. You don't challenge Ken Shepard because he will hold you to the fire. But like, I'm curious with both shows now. Like, do you ever feel like where do the ideas come from? Obviously, like, they're both collaborative, and the steering is done by everyone on the ship.
Yeah.
But like, have you had ideas that you've like thrown at Kat or Nadia or Ken and be like, they'll never go for this, and then they do, and you're like, shit.
Well, our current season of Normandy FM is actually, or our next coming season of Normandy FM is like that. It'll be. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about what it is just yet, but it is, I think, the first time that I pitched something, and this is one where I'm kind of taking the wheel, because largely it's been games that Ken has played, and I either have or have not played them.
Right.
Like The Last of Us I had not played prior to our season. Final Fantasy X, obviously, we had both played already, but 10-2 I was not as familiar with. So this next season, which I won't completely give away right now, is nearly upon us, is it is one where I am kind of taking the lead, and that's interesting and fun, and I hope it goes neat places. I think it will. As far as Blood God goes, a lot of it has been collaborative. And we do kind of have, so there was like a structure, obviously. That's the thing about entering a podcast when 2 people who have already been doing an incredible job are bringing on a third person, right? So Kat and Nadia already had kind of a structure for what the show is. We got weekly episodes. We've got the Pantheon, which is kind of the user-voted book club style thing. I don't really participate in that. That is not really part of what I do there. A lot of the stuff I do involves specials. So Autumn of the Avatar, which is our current running special series, was a hurried invention of my own based off of Summer of Gundam, which we had done previously, but was based off of Normandy FM, where we are watching Avatar every week and doing Kat and Nadia have never seen it before, which is very fun. This is their first watch ever. We're doing weekly updates, and then also at the end of every month doing a big recap of the book that we have just finished. So we're coming up now on the end of book 2. I think this week's episodes are City of Walls and Secrets, Tales of Ba Sing Se, and Appa's Lost Days, which as Avatar fans know, there's a reason why this week was only 3 episodes. We got stuff to talk about. But there's that stuff, and there's also things like the charity streamathon we did, which was largely my own half-cocked idea of maybe we just do a live stream for 2 days, raising money for Trans Lifeline, and that managed to come together somehow. It worked. Still don't know how. My computer almost exploded twice, but it's mostly about, I think the interesting thing is that Normandy has a very set structure, right? Normandy is one thing, is a retrospective podcast, and that gives us a lot of room to dive really deep, to go like we have a narrow subset, but a very deep one within that. We're going to do so much analysis. We are going to go beat by beat. We are going to pick this game apart in a way that lets us really gain a holistic understanding of it. And Blood God is almost kind of the same way, whereas we are an independent RPG podcast, right? So it's this subset of things, but it almost starts to like bloom out at the end and start to encompass other things that kind of just tie into our general interests and really just try to encapsulate like who we are as people and what we enjoy doing, and then also have the week-to-week show where we talk about RPGs, and has become a really cool way to both expand my love of a genre, because I love RPGs already, if you couldn't tell from me doing a billion podcasts about them, but also to just kind of explore why that is and be able to cover this stuff for people who do care about the answer to why do we love RPGs, and what makes RPGs so interesting and fascinating to us. So yeah, I know it's a very long answer to your question, but it's a collaborative process.
Look, if I didn't want you to come on our podcast and be long-winded, I wouldn't have invited you on the podcast.
Exactly.
I've had conversations with you before. Well, this was wonderful, Eric. I'm so glad that you were able to come on the show. Before we wrap up and before we ask you our final question, I would love for you. I would love for you.
So dramatic.
So dramatic. I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, where they can find your writing. Give the spiel, give the plugs.
Yeah, so you can find me over by day at Destructoid.com. That is where you'll find all my news writing and what is soon to be a lot of reviews. Shout outs to the month of October. And over by night, you can find me at Normandy FM. That's Normandy FM show on Twitter, or patreon.com/Normandy FM. And then you can also find me at Blood God Pod on the weekly show and on our various specials. That's at Blood God Pod, and patreon.com/Blood God Pod is the acts of the Blood God. I host Normandy FM with Kenneth Shepard, and I host Blood God alongside Kat Bailey and Nadia Oxford. They are all wonderful people. You should follow them too. They're fantastic.
Yes. And if folks want to follow you on the internet, though I don't know why they would want to, but
look, I got a retweet from Hideo Kojima, baby.
You're living your life.
Recently, I was going to go look to see which of my viral tweets is the most viral still, because I think weirdly enough, it is still the one.
Fraggle Rock.
No, it's not Fraggle Rock.
Oh.
Fraggle Rock's maybe not even in the top 3.
Oh.
I have a weird thing where during Nintendo Directs, I just like to tweet dumb things, and occasionally some of them go viral. I wouldn't say that I'm known for it. It's just that I've gone extremely viral multiple times over Nintendo Directs, and it's very strange. So if you've ever seen the joke about basements haunted from Breath of the Wild's sequel trailer, or more specifically, I think I started an internet movement by editing Tom Nook talking on the broadcaster thing during the Animal Crossing reveal to say a body has been discovered. And now there's a bunch of Monokuma Tom Nook edits and you're welcome, internet. That's what I'm here for. That's what I provide. If you want to follow that or any of my much worse shit posts, you can find me at Seamoosi. That's SEAMOOSI on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you. Hang tight for a moment before we ask the final question. Rachel and I have a few folks to thank before we wrap up the show.
Yes, many thanks to John Presnell for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Remble. What a beautiful intro and exit to our show. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. And we also want to thank the incredible Katie Bug, who designed our awesome show art, those cartoony faces of us. Yeah. We are very grateful to have that logo. And, of course, even though much to Rachel's dismay, I will thank Case Aiken for our incredible show art.
Never thank
your arch nemesis.
My arch nemesis, shaking my fist in the sky. No thanks to Case Aiken for the beautiful continuing rotation of show art with our faces and our guest faces. No thanks, I say.
No thanks.
But definite thanks to the Certain Point of View Podcast Network for continuing to allow us to be amongst them. Got a ton of shows. You can check them all out at certainpov.com. We got podcasts about comic books. We got podcasts about video games. We got podcasts about movies and television. Just name a few without naming them.
Exactly. I mean, if you happen to wander here as a fan of RPGs, you may want to check out Fun and Games podcast that I do with the incredible Jeff Moonen. Or if you're a fan of Mass Effect, which I assume that's why you know Eric. I mean, that's why I know Eric. You might want to check out Reignite, which as of when we are recording, and by the time you're hearing this, we have come back from our hiatus and are talking relationships in Mass Effect Andromeda. And the aforementioned Kenneth Shepard comes to defend his love of the incredible Gil, one of the characters on the ship. And then we also have tons of other cool stuff. We have a Superman podcast called Man of Steel. We have a now I'm doing it.
You're
Rachel,
you're doing my. I was trying to get us out of here, and I was like, I'm gonna skip the bit today. You went for it.
I went into the bit anyway. Anyway, we have tons of really great podcasts.
Books that burn.
Burn. Yes, with previous guest Robin was from.
Analogy.
But if you enjoy our podcast, please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice. Really helps to grow the audience.
4 stars would be great if you don't mind.
Yeah, we're fine. We're a fine
with 4.
podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm not even pushing for the 5, though. I'll take it if you want to give it.
We demand only 5s on Normandy FM. Nothing but 5s.
Nothing but 5s. There are no flaws, only 5s. But
Exactly.
But yes, please rate us and review us on your podcast platform of choice. You can also join our Discord server by going to certpov.com and clicking on our permanent invite link. You can also write Rachel and I a missive at screensnarkpod@gmail.com or screen_snark on Twitter. And I think that's it.
Yeah. So a lot of many calls to action.
So many calls to action.
Boy.
Rachel,
yes.
Why don't you tell our guest what the final question is?
Eric, I would love to know, given your long storied history with RPGs and writing, the creation of things, the stories you tell, Eric, if you could choose one trope as featured in movies or television to instantly and magically become true in your life, which trope would you choose?
Rivals to lovers.
Yes,
that's a popular one, but it's always a good answer.
It went right into my heart, and I was like, Eric, just speak your truth. Yep. I have always how telling on myself do I want to be on this podcast. Competition is a way is a love language for me, and so that is probably why I like so many battle anime, and also probably I don't know, deep-seated problem in many other aspects of my life. But Rivals to Lovers absolutely is one of the best tropes in the world. I have always wanted some sort of battle anime that is also a romance anime in some way. We're close. I feel like we're on the cusp. We're like getting really close to just breaking that seal entirely and having some sort of like battle anime video game RPG that is also everybody is in love with each other and hot. So we're like really close. I can feel it. Yes.
And also if you want to win Eric's heart, to become his rival. That's the only way.
Yes.
Now you must best Eric in the field of video games journalism. Have at it.
To bring it back to Chainsaw Man, there is definitely a character whose main personality is everyone is beneath me. You're all dogs. I could kill you whenever I want to. And I was just like, oh shit.
This is going to awaken something in me.
Awaken? No, this is just going to embolden something in me.
Well, Eric, thank you again for joining us. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I will, of course, as always, thank my incredible, gorgeous, brilliant, and effervescent co-host, Rachel Quirky Shank.
Oh, and I would like to thank my sumptuous shonen dish of a co-host, Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. Yeah, I know. I said it out loud, and then I was like, ooh, I can't wait to call Matt that later.
Yeah, it works. It works. I'll take it. And, of course, we'd like to thank you, our incredible listeners. We would be nothing without you. We appreciate that you are here. Thank you for coming back every 2 weeks. And we will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere. Bye-bye.
So, I have a question. Have you ever wanted to get into comics, but you just didn't know where to start? Well, welcome to Comics Quest. I'm JD Martin, and every week I sit down with a guest to talk a comic that I think anybody can pick up and start their comics reading journey. We take a look at psychedelic sci-fi, fantastical action, heart-wrenching love stories, and of course, superheroes. So check us out at certainpov.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.